Well, today's the big day. Today's the big day. Yes. Well, Parliament is back in session for a handful of weeks, which is great, sort of. We'll see what happens. And then we have the king himself coming in tomorrow to do the throne speech that everyone is so pumped about, including Mr. Blanchet. I'm just kidding. And there's so much that is going on with that. There's the fact that the NDP, well, is not the NDP anymore. We have Mark Carney admitting, yeah, things are looking pretty rough these days, and kind of slyly throws Trudeau under the bus, which was fascinating to watch. And the Liberals, of course, not learning from their past mistakes and saying, yeah, we're not really interested in adopting any reform act here and taking control of our future. No, none of that's happening here. That is what the story is. Welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. I'm grateful to be on with you. If you get any value from the show and you enjoy watching this and you get anything from this, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the show, helps us to grow, and helps us to kind of reach more audiences, especially as well. We're going to be seeing some work over the next 3 weeks here, and we'll be reporting on all of it. Now let's get into the show. So this is the big one. This is the big one that shook the foundations of today. When you read this, you're like, okay, NDP will not be granted official party status, says the Liberal House leader. And you read that, you see that, and we're like, yeah, we already knew that. We know Jagmeet didn't win his seat. He lost it in hilarious fashion. NDP only gathered 7 seats in the last election. So we knew they were losing party status, but we didn't actually know it. To be able to achieve party status here in this country, you need to have at least 12 seats in the House of Commons, and NDP got 7. But the thing is, the interim leader of the NDP was like, well, if we cozy up the Liberals just enough, if we just try to talk to them, maybe sweet talk Mark Carney, maybe, just maybe, there is precedent where they can make an exception and still give us party status. And that's what they're hoping for. They're begging, please, Mark Carney, have mercy on us. We know we suck, but please, please. And they said no. And this was today's official announcement saying, no, NDP is going to have to live with it. Government House Leader Stephen McKinnon says the NDP will not be granted official party status because the law says a party needs at least 12 seats to be recognized. The NDP was reduced to just 7 seats in last month's election. Interim NDP leader Don Davies has told the Canadian press he spoke with the Prime Minister's office about obtaining official party status for the NDP in the House of Commons. Davies pointed to several past instances of provincial legislatures granting party status to an opposition party. Again, when it benefits you and you're trying to get something happening with your party, you're just like, oh, the provinces did it. We can be able to do it, right? No, we're the federal here, folks. And Liberals are savage. Admittedly, Liberals savage this one. It was interesting. This is where it gets very fascinating, though. Watch this, read this last paragraph, and this is why it's really important of why they are not getting party status. Without official party status, the NDP will not be allowed to ask daily questions in question period, will not be guaranteed seats on standing committees, and will lose out on financial resources provided to recognized parties. The NDP lost official party status in 1993 election, but managed to regain it in 1997 vote. Here is the thing. This hasn't happened in 30 years. Over 30 years since they've last lost party status. Jagmeet Singh is the gift that keeps on giving to that party, isn't it? And you can say what you want, you can say what you desire, but the reality is, which is nice, the fact is, yep, the Conservatives lost the election, but if there's any silver lining for what Jagmeet has done to this country, and then in turn done to his party, well, it's nice to see the chickens coming home to roost on this one. Let's just give you a quick idea, all right? It says here, they're going to lose out on financial resources provided to recognized parties. This is exactly what they're going to be losing. They're going to lose approximately $1.1 million for the party leader's office. They're going to lose $148,000 for the chief whip's office. They're about to lose $111,000 for the House leader's office and roughly $79,000 for the caucus chair's office. In total, the NDP stands to lose millions of dollars in funding that would have supported party operations, research, communications, and staff salaries. The financial shortfall has already led to layoffs of parliamentary staff, including senior leadership, researchers, and communications personnel. This is a very, very bad time for the NDP. And this goes to show that you should have adopted the Reform Act. So you could have ousted Singh when you had the opportunity before he completely kiboshed your party. Now, you didn't adopt it. You let him keep going, and he ran your party into the ground, and now you have 7 seats in the House of Commons, no party status, no resources, and you're just going to have to sit there and like it. Oh, baby, it sucks. Sucks to suck on that one, doesn't? And that is just the reality of the story. But talking about the Reform Act and how important it is. What is the Reform Act? Well, the Reform Act is you can choose to, before every parliament, to bring in the Reform Act to give your party the option to have a leadership review and oust a leader if you're not really enjoying it. The Liberals did not adopt it in the last parliament, leading to them having a really hard time shedding Justin Trudeau. They barely got rid of him, just barely got rid of him. And so the talks then the last week were like, okay, Liberals, are you going to adopt the Reform Act for this parliament? So that you have the option to oust Mark Carney if he starts doing a job that's making you unpopular, puts your job in jeopardy. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to oust him? Are you going to give yourselves the power to oust him? And well, they said, nah.
You ever read a headline and think, is that true? Or worse, why is every outlet telling me a different story? Yes, it's no secret that news today is broken. Outrage gets clicks and algorithms feed you what you already believe. It's easy to end up in an echo chamber without even realizing it. That's why I've grown to bring in Ground News as a part of our show prep. It's not just another news app. It actually shows you how different media outlets are covering the same story across the political spectrum. You can literally see the bias of your sources, track how stories are covered in left, center, and right outlets, and get the full picture without the noise.
Take a look at this article where the Liberal caucus to consider a process for removing an unpopular party leader. Here in the top right, you can see 33 sources report on the story. And you can see all the headlines of the reporting sources so you can easily compare them. You can see the headlines are fairly different in how they frame the story. If you click the bias comparison button, you can see that left-wing outlets frame it with urgency and concern about what this means, while the right-leaning coverage spotlights skepticism and underscores how this displays party weakness. To get more context behind these headlines, on the right, you can find a visual breakdown of each reporting source's bias distribution, factuality rating, and publication ownership, so you can see the whole picture for every story.
Another great feature is their blind spot feed, which highlights stories that are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum, so you never miss out on important stories that aren't reported by your usual news source. I partnered with Ground News because of their mission. Their mission to bring clarity to the news. We've learned that everyone has their bias, including myself, and Ground News allows you to understand the bias and read those stories through that specific lens, giving you a fuller picture and fuller understanding of what is happening in the news. If you want to stop being manipulated by headlines and start seeing the fuller picture of the news stories that come across your feed, use my link ground.news/elevate or scan the QR code to get 40% off and unlimited access to their Vantage plan. Remember to use my link in the description or the QR code on screen to get the discount for a limited time. Again, that's ground.news/elevate. Now let's get into the story.
They said Liberals vote against adopting power to remove Mark Carney as leader. Liberal MPs voted against adopting a formal process to eject their leader should the need arise. Newly elected Liberal caucus chair James Maloney confirmed on Sunday. But Maloney refused to say anything more about the vote or the secret deliberations, insisting that should all remain private. The Reform Act was voted down, Maloney said, after the Liberals met for the first caucus meeting since the April 28th election. What happens in caucus stays in caucus, they say, and you're going to hear me say that again today and tomorrow and every day going forward. And the lack of transparency with this Liberal Party continues. We are not going to know anything about what they're going to be planning on doing. And that is a reality that we're going to have to continue to deal with and continue to fight against here in this country. The fact that we don't really know what went on in caucus, what were the votes, what was happening? Was it a drastic, overwhelming majority voting against this, or was it a slim majority? Was it a 50-50 split? We don't know, and we will never know. But all we know is that they're not adopting it, and Mark Carney is good as golden in his seat as Liberal leader for now. They do have a minority government, delegated down 169 seats after the weekend, and we'll see what happens for his minority government moving forward. Because we do know we don't have a budget yet. We do know they made a lot of promises, And Desjardins decided to map it out for us, which we really appreciate. It says mixed signals on the budget risk eroding Canada's federal fiscal credibility. Last week, they said word came down from Canada's newly minted Prime Minister that there will be no budget for 2025 until the fall. That followed some mixed messages from the finance minister as to whether it could be a full budget or just a fall update. Save for the pandemic and post 9/11, this will be the first time Canada won't have a fiscal plan published in the spring going back to 1968. And then when a spring budget wasn't tabled in the past, it was because an emergency budget was passed either earlier, as in the case of December 2001 security budget, or not long after, as in the case of the pandemic's July 2020 economic and fiscal snapshot. The light green here on the left is the fall economic statement of 2024. You know, the disastrous economic statement that Freeland brought forward, that she reluctantly brought forward and just disappeared so she didn't have to present it. Yeah, that economic statement pales in comparison to the actual projected debt that this government is going to be putting on this country over the next 5 years. That big, dark green block just towers over it. You get over $40 billion in deficit spending under the fall economic statement. Well, Mark Carney's planning $55 billion. Then the next year, close to $60 billion. Then the next year, down close to $52 billion. Then the next year, down $45 billion. And the next year after that, $35 billion of all new spending. It makes Trudeau's promises in 2015 look like child's play. He said it would be a moderate deficit of $10 billion per year. Child's play. Talk about financial guards going off the rails really quick. And that's just Desjardins projecting based on the promises they made during the election. We have no idea what they're going to produce in the fall. And we know that anytime Liberals produce a plan, produce a budget, it's drastically more than what they're promising. That's why people are upset. That's why people are annoyed at this government. And that's why the tension between those who voted for Carney and those who didn't vote for Carney is escalating by the day, because people are frustrated that how dare you vote for a party that continues to do this and continue to devalue our dollar. And the other side is saying, well, it's a different party now. Carney knows what he's doing. Yep. Doubt it. But it's all good. Mr. Mark Carney made sure to acknowledge that things are tough right now. It's not been a good 10 years and effectively throws Justin Trudeau under the bus in yesterday's press conference.
A world that's more dangerous and divided. Most so since the end of the Second World War. The biggest transformation of the global trading system since the fall of the Berlin Wall. The reality of the impact of our long-standing weak productivity that's making life less affordable for Canadians and is beginning to strain our government finances and starting to put at risk the social programs on which Canadians rely. These are the challenges we must face and turn into opportunities. Opportunities to give Canadians the Canada that they deserve. Opportunities to transform our economy to be the strongest in the G7. Opportunities to build new partnerships with reliable allies. Opportunities, indeed duties to secure our sovereignty and make our communities safe.
One of his opening press conferences, one of the opening statements he makes is just, again, painting a very dire Canada. Things are really tough. Things are really bad. It's not good out there. It's been a tough time. We have to try and make this the best economy in the G7. He essentially is paving the path to convince the Canadian public that he needs as much power as possible to be able to turn this thing around. So again, he's continuing to plant the seeds of how bad it is. In some ways, it's true. It is pretty bad. But that he is laying the ground for saying, I'm the only person who has a solution. It's going to go through me. And as we've seen, even talked about last week's episode, he continues to try and consolidate power into the PMO, taking more voices away from Canadians. So we'll see how this all goes. On a light note, though, it was fun to see them opening up House of Commons today and Andrew Scheer calling out the Liberals for what we just witnessed them do.
His bets by fighting for both the York family and the Lancastrians. It didn't work out too well for him, though. He died at the Battle of Tewkesbury. But of course, he wasn't the last politician to try to be on both sides of a contentious issue. And I dare say we may find some Liberal MPs voting for things that they were very recently voting against.
That was a very light way of kind of poking the bear a little bit. Yeah, we're about to watch some massive hypocrisy take place over the next couple of weeks. Before then, you decide to go on vacation for 12 weeks, and then hopefully we'll forget everything come the fall. It'll be interesting to see. A lot of stuff's coming out. They chose a new speaker today, and we'll see if he is a better speaker than, say, Greg Fergus was. We'll see how this goes. But anyways, enjoy your Monday. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.